online. So thank you for being here. My name is Barak. I'm Barak Aaron. I'm the head of the monitoring team in FOA. That's Fighting Online Antisemitism. Actually, I will open my screen right now and let's look on the screen. So you're seeing my screen right now. One moment. I'll just share the entire screen.
Okay.
So you are seeing now my screen. This is the website of FOA, Fighting Online Antisemitism. As I said, I'm the head of the monitoring team in FOA. Now, the purpose of this meeting, of this session, is to talk about our experience and work with the social media. We'll talk about the work of FOA in general and what we do. Also, I will focus on the work of the monitoring team, what we do exactly. I will also talk about the difficulties we face on removing content. I, of course, expand more, elaborate more about this issue. And I will also dive into the definitions of hate speech that we are, with our experience, learned a lot about the definition of hate speech and illegitimate content according to the social media. So I think the best tool that you can get from this session is to know how to identify or distinguish between illegitimate and legitimate content in social media. It means I don't want you to, it will help you not to waste your time on content that is not violating the social media guidelines. Now, of course, we have materials that I can share with you and you can use it after that, just to expand your knowledge about this matter of what is hate speech exactly, what is a violation according to the social media. By the way, it's very different from what you think. Any questions?
What can we report that has the most chance of getting removed?
Okay, so this is a general question. It's a good question. So actually, to understand that, we need to understand what are the guidelines, what stand behind the guidelines of the social media. So I will share with you a presentation. It means understanding the definition of hate speech. So just in general, social media see or define hate speech or content that is illegitimate according to the UN definition of hate speech. Now remember, they need also to allow, see, if I see their side, they also need to allow freedom of speech in their platform, but they need to know, I would say, the border, where are exactly the red lines, or where it really goes beyond and become illegitimate content and considered hate speech. So this presentation will also show you how difficult it is to define it, how difficult it is to really say what is hate speech, to identify this type of content when you see it in social media. Let me continue. Because there's actually no universal definition of hate speech, then social media adopted the UN. What is the UN defined as hate speech? So we have the freedom of expression. They need to actually allow freedom of expression, but still supervise of what they consider as hate speech. And this is what we are working according to these guidelines. So let me continue. So by the way, one of the things that I'm doing with my team, with the monitoring team, by the way, I didn't say anything about the monitoring team, but the monitoring team is the team that actively in FOA goes into the social media platforms, search for anti-Semitic content. By the way, not just anything that considered anti-Semitic, but also incitement to violence, supporting terrorism, and also other, but everything related to anti-Jewish, anti-Jewish content. And so one of the difficulties, I would say, or one of the challenges that I'm facing is to teach the team or to give them the knowledge of what is considered hate speech. And usually in the beginning, when new members start, I would say that I see they report a lot of content that is not relevant, or I will call it non-reportable content that will not be removed or is not considered a violation according to the social media guidelines. So just to say in general, social media, they consider hate speech anything that goes against a group of people. Anything that is aimed against a group of people means if they actually define the group of people according to their skin color, ethnicity, religion, gender, for example, sexual identity, this is considered a violation, hate speech, anything that goes against it. And this is content that I'm telling my team to report on. If you look, I'm going to the training folder that is being shared, by the way, in the forum, sorry, in the forum of OCT7. One of the, let me go into it. Now, one of the documents that I recommend you to read, and this is the first document to read, one moment, is the hate speech definition. So whenever you want to start monitor and search content online and understand exactly what is considered hate speech, I advise you to go into the training material folder where it is shared again in the forum, go into the training, start here, that's the folder, and then hate speech definitions. That's the basic document that you should read before you even start to search for content, just to understand what is considered hate speech. If you read and if we go and it says, I think that's the most important thing, hate speech is actually anything that goes against identity factors of people, of a group of people, such as religion, ethnicity, nationality, race, color, descent, or gender. That's very important. And that's where people is mistakenly also will consider, for example, anti-Israeli content as a content that violates the social media guidelines. Unfortunately, it's not. And it's also, if you read further on this document, you can understand that any anti-Israeli content, for example, if you see the example here of burning the Israeli flag on the right, this is, according to the social media platform, will not be considered as hate speech. This is very confusing sometimes. Now, why? Now, anything that goes against Israel, for example, even, by the way, discrediting the Israeli flag or any Israeli symbols, it's actually it's considered a criticism against an entity, or freedom of speech. Actually, it's part of freedom of speech against an entity. That's Israel is actually a country. A country is an entity, not a group of people. This is not considered anything that goes against a protected group of people. So it's not considered hate speech. So anything that, all this anti-Israeli content that you see, we will see examples further on, but also content that calls for the destruction of Israel. If you see, like, sometimes there's a hashtag called death to Israel, or people write death to Israel, destroy Israel, eliminate Israel. Unfortunately, this is not considered hate speech. People report it, but it's a, unfortunately, waste of time. So don't waste your time on such content. We will just see examples further on. So
And
let me
this
continue.
is according to the UN? Wow.
So yes, exactly. And this is what was adopted by the social media platforms. So whenever you hate speech is whenever you're attacking certain categories of people and causing social unrest. That's how they define it. So it's not just about religion, of course. I said gender and sexual identity, and of course, by the way, also about if someone is talking and insulting someone for his disease, for example, this can be considered also a violation of the social media guidelines. It's hate speech.
So if we're not a group of people as Israelis, is there a way that we can be considered a group of people?
I mean, anything, yeah, if someone also attack online, I mean, Israelis as a group, yeah, it's a group of people. Israelis, it says ethnically from Israel, maybe that's the definition, yes. Jewish, of course, it's against their religion, it's considered hate speech, yes, but anyone that says anything against Israel, and we will see examples, unfortunately, will not consider that this is also, for example, lies that being spread against Israel, especially now after October 7 with the war in Gaza. It's a waste of time to report it, and we will see examples right now. So let me continue with this. Actually, I will show the drive. Then, if you go over this document, that's the first document that you should go over and read it. I suggest even 2 times, 3 times to understand. Now, what I did in this document, we summarized the guidelines of the social media, of the mainstream social media, which is Meta and TikTok, Google, and X. We just summarize it. It's like you have 40 pages each with a definition, so we just summarize it to 3 pages, so it will be easier to understand it. So go over this page, these 3 pages, and understand it. Now, the second page you should go on before you start is what we prepared as a second document. We would call it Reporting Antisemitism, Visual Guide and Definitions. Now, that's very important. It's not just about reading what are the rules of the social media guidelines, but we also created galleries with examples of each category. Now, by the way, when monitoring team, the monitoring team, my team, when they find content and they would need to submit it to FOA, they have to categorize it. Now, of course, I said hate speech, there's no like a specific definition. So we had to really go over and
Can you
write.
show the gallery, Barak, please? Could you?
Yes, we will show the galleries. I just say that we just find like the main categories that we find in social media and try to made a list of the galleries, the categories that our members need to categorize the content whenever they submit. So we created just galleries of each one. For example, if I click on the classic conspiracy, I mean, that's classic antisemitism, also conspiracy theories inside, you can see examples of such content. Everything was found by our team, but the best way to really understand what you need to search for is to look and see exactly with your eyes what was found. So that's the best way, I think, to understand it, other than just reading text or rules.
So are these content that you were able to remove?
Yeah, most of it. Unfortunately, not all of it. I will talk also about, by the way, the removal with the social media. So yeah, there are guidelines, but unfortunately, most of the social media, they will not work exactly according to the guidelines. There's not 100% removal. And this is another story with issues inside the social media platforms and the moderation teams. This is another problem, by the way. So for example, this is the classic antisemitism, incitement to violence or justification of violence, especially, by the way, after October 7. We find a lot of such content. Also, some of the content here is like between supporting terrorism and violent incitement to violence. So you can see examples here. Another example that is, I would say, supporting terrorism. After October 7, this is a good example of content that massively, we found it much more after October 7, supporting Hamas. By the way, I'm talking about hate speech, but then incitement to violence, for example, and supporting terrorism is another category, which considered a violation of the social media guidelines. Anything that supports terrorist organization, or at least what is considered in the list in the UN as terrorist organization in their list. So supporting Hamas, supporting Hezbollah or any other, or jihad, it is considered violation and should be removed. And by the way, this is where, and this is very important to say, when after October 7, we had the videos the video that were released by Hamas of the hostages. And what happened is that we got contact from people who pro-Israelis, of course, or Israelis, or anyone who's supporting Israel, and they just want to raise awareness. So they published these videos that released by Hamas of the hostages in their profile. They shared it, or they even published it, and it was removed by the social media. And we asked Meta, for example, why they remove it, and they say, this is terrorist. I mean, the origin of the video is terrorism. It's a terrorist organization. It should be removed. By the way, the only one who can publish it, because sometimes you see it online, is only the official news channels. If they have like the official news channels, they have their social media page, they can keep it. But as a private person, it will be removed. So yes, this is supporting terrorism that unfortunately you find that after October 7, like much more, like it's more common, unfortunately. Let me talk about another category, anti-Zionist content. And this is very important to understand, and that's where it's make it more complicated a little bit. After one of the things we are doing in FOA, we work with the social media also to change where we see the need to change their policy. One of the things we did is we worked with them for 2 years almost to change the policy and defined as anything that goes against Zionists to be anti-Semitic. By the way, they didn't consider it as anti-Semitic before. Now, in July 2024, Meta published that they consider anti-Zionist content anything that go against Zionist people. Anyone who's saying Zionists, so it will considered as, if you wrote the word Zionist, you actually said Jewish. It's the same thing. So it's actually the same word, so it should be removed. Now, that's where it gets complicated a little bit, because Zionism, if someone says Zionism, then it's not a violation, because Zionism, it's a movement, it's an ideology. That's not a violation. If you criticize, even say violent thing about Zionism is Satanism, for example. This is something we hear a lot. That's no violation. But if you say Zionists are Satanist or Satan or devil or anything like type of content, then yes, this is anti-Semitism, because Zionists consider Jews, according to Meta. So you need to remember this when you see the content and to understand the differences between this type of content. Okay. This is about the galleries, so you should go over them. But of course, Holocaust, which is also Holocaust, the Holocaust and Holocaust denial. I don't have to explain why this is a violation. Holocaust denial is illegal also in some countries. So of course, and it's being used a lot in hate speech, in anti-Semitic hate speech. One more thing is also the fake false information. This is also very confusing. Now, we show here some examples, but unfortunately, not all of them good. This is a bit difficult, this category, but if you see, for example, this is a good or maybe bad example, but saying that anything that is a false information, but also involve anti-Semitism or anti-Semitic, any that falls under anti-Semitic category. For example, saying that the Jews killed 500 women as babies in Gaza in the past 24 hours, this is fake, but this is anti-Semitic false information. Now, this is where it also gets complicated, because we see a lot of content. Even if you see, I used my members in the team to search and add like the examples here. Some of the examples here are, unfortunately, they are legal. For example, if you see this is illegal content according to the social media, because there's nothing against Jewish people or not mentioning Jewish people. Even, by the way, if you're saying Israel did it, killed 40,000 Palestinians, children. You just don't report it, don't waste your time on it. That's what I'm saying. This is, for example, should be removed from the gallery. It's a good example of what not to report on. So this is about the fake, false information, more difficult really to identify, and you really need to understand what is reportable and what is not reportable.
Someone is asking, is saying death to the IDF legal or not legal?
Yeah, we had a discussion with the social media about it, and unfortunately, there's no consistency about it from their side. I was told by Meta that this is a violation and should be removed, and this is actually different from each platform. In X, for example, they don't remove it. In TikTok, they do remove it. So there is
So each
something that
platform
I
is
can't really.
different.
It really depends on the platform in that case about that to the IDF. It's quite new actually, from the last few months, 6 months, last year. So then don't really give us like an exact answer, like an answer yes or no.
Okay. Do you have a gallery of the things that you succeed to remove?
Yes, we do have. Yes, I can share them with you. Now, one of the things we are doing in FOA, let me go into the Google Photos. You will see a lot of galleries here. We are gathering every week removed content. Now, just examples of removed content, just to publish it. But we have now a huge gallery. Every week, between 5 to 10 posts that were removed. It's very difficult, of course, to publish all of them. But yes, you can see examples of content that removed every week, and we can actually add them to a gallery. By the way, most of the content you are seeing here in these galleries, also, most of it was removed. Not all of it, yeah, but it is a violation. Depends, by the way, which platforms. It's also very important to say some platforms, and I'm not talking about, I mean, there are the mainstream platforms that will remove it usually, but there are non-mainstream platforms, or even if you're talking about, for example, Telegram. I'm not sure if who of you ever heard of Gab or VK, which are different platforms. There's no content moderation, so maybe if there are examples here, they're probably still in the platform itself, still available.
So guys, I put in the chat the link to the Spark community of Barak, where Barak actually downloads all the content that you put there, and his team is going over them. Please make sure that you're part of his community while he's speaking. Go ahead and try and think.
Another tip that inside the drive. By the way, I created a Google Drive. The purpose is to make it simple to everyone to log in and just the material to be available for everyone. But there are two documents that I also recommend you to read. One of them is called alternative spelling. This is something that we find also a lot in social media, and it's called, let me show you examples. This is how users or profiles who publish regularly anti-Semitic content, they will distort the spelling of the word. For example, this is just distortion of the word Jews or Jewish. Now, not sure if you know, but most of the social media platforms, they have an algorithm that usually will find specific content that might be like a combination of different words, and it will flag it or just flag it to the content moderators as a content that is suspected as a content that is a violation of the social media guidelines. So this is a way to avoid the algorithm. Just not writing Jews, but Jewish with 2O, or you see just distort the word, and we find it all the time. And now, of course, the social media platforms, they always update this algorithm, but we will always find new and very, I would say, new and funny use of these words.
Tricky.
Original, I would say, very original sometimes. The second document that you should read and will help you to really, this will actually help you to search. By the way, you can search these words that you're seeing here, not just searching for Jewish, but just these words, and will lead you to anti-Semitic content very easily. Another document that you should read is called, we call it Anti-Semitic Dog Whistles. What I heard, I'm not sure if it's real correct to say it in English, but it says proxy words. Means using different words for saying Jewish or Jew, but not saying it's Jew. Like, for example, globalist, elite, deep state, New World Order, usually it says NWO, you will see it as NWO, even Zionist, which means Jewish people. So there's a list we prepared with examples from social media of how using this word is actually make the post anti-Semitic. Elites, cabal, and there's of course an explanation how this is become the word, what stands behind each term, each word. So use it, and then you can search with this word. You can use it as to search inside the social media platforms. Now, talking about search inside the social media, I'm going back to this folder. It's called Training Start Here. Sorry if it's not convenient, but then that's how they built it in FOA. I think one of the most very important document you should use if you want to start and search, search content, then it's called hashtags and keywords. Look, this table, by the way, this table is open also for editing. I'll explain why. For everyone, you can edit and add your own words and keywords. So when we started, most of the members in FOA, these are students. Most of them, by the way, they speak Hebrew as a native language of Hebrew. They don't speak English as a native language. Sometimes we demand to search content in English. Many of them, they don't have enough, let's say, knowledge or words they know, anti-Semitic phrases or words. So what we created a database of keywords in different languages, not just English. It started with English, but then I had more members speaking other languages. So we just added more and more words. So this will be easier for you. If you want to search content, for example, if you're just a beginner, I recommend you to go into this tab. It's called hashtags in English, for example, or in Russian, if you speak Russian. And you can just take these these hashtags, which are very common in anti-Semitic content, and just search inside social media. Most likely, very easy to find anti-Semitic content if you search for these hashtags. Okay, that's a good way. Another, these are keywords, but also like native English speakers and other languages, they also made this tab. It's called keywords, and this is slang and proxy. For example, the word kike. Anyone who's a native speaker, I guess, you know what kike is, or if you know already with anti-Semitism, but many people who don't deal with anti-Semitism every day and they are not a native English speaker, sometimes they don't know what kike is. Or for example, something we found in social media, oven dodger. Anyone know what oven dodger mean? Anyone ever heard this phrase? So this is like this is a phrase to describe a Holocaust survivor, someone who managed to escape from the ovens. So if you look on these words, even just study some of them or just familiar with some of them, if you go into social media platforms and see content, then when you see this phrase, immediately you understand, okay, this is anti-Semitic. You know what's the meaning. Probably if you never saw it here, you will not even recognize it as anti-Semitic or hate speech. A lot of such content, Telegram is, I would say, good or maybe bad, you decide, but a source of content to track these groups of neo-Nazis and white supremacists. And we see it a lot. This type of symbols, for example, if I'll go 1-4, which is by the way, 1-4 is one of the KKK symbols, KKK for the United States. Or if you see they have their own tattoos, they use it a lot in Telegram. So sometimes I was searching in Telegram, and when I see these symbols, sometimes the group itself or the channel, it has these symbols, and immediately I remember I saw it in the list. after I go over, then okay, immediately I know this group is worth exploring, because you might find content that is sometimes even, unfortunately, in Telegram, where they feel free to express themselves even worse than social media because there's no content moderation. And you can keep your anonymity much more than, of course, in social media. Then you can find even more harsh content, more harsh anti-Semitic content. So use it also as a thing that you can, by the way, if you know how to make image search, this can help you also to track anti-Semitic content very easily, anti-Semitic groups in all social media, and also track them to Telegram if you know how to do it.